Thanks for a nice lunch to those that put on. Welcome back, staff. Special warm welcome to our verbal presenters today. For those of you that haven't been here before, trust us, you're doing us the favour, so we welcome you and we thank you for your support. When you come to the lectern, please say your piece, the floor is yours, and then it'll be followed by the councillors' questions. So once again, really appreciate your support. First one up, doesn't need any introduction. Welcome, Hamish. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's been a while. Last time I addressed the council, Councillor Grahams told me I spoke too long. Is he here today? Yeah, that was only an hour, and rules don't permit me to speak for an hour today. So I would take it that you've read our submission. I'm here on behalf of the Clutha Foundation. You'll be aware that we've started this foundation. It's a charitable foundation. Its beneficiaries are the people of the Clutha district. Its contributors don't necessarily have to come from the Clutha district, and we're building a fund in perpetuity to benefit the people of the Clutha district, and it's essentially donor driven. In fact, the donors give money. They specify what it's for. If they don't specify what it's for, we take it as general funds, and the trustees decide what happens with it. We have certain investments that we've started off, and we can ask any questions about that. And the essence of what we're really asking for, you've been kind enough to grant us $10,000 a year over the last year to support the activities of the foundation. That's not investment money. We have certain costs, and so we are here, or I am here on behalf of the foundation to ask you to continue that support in the long-term plan. Obviously, we are asking for $10,000 a year for the next 10 years. Simple maths adds up to $100,000. Sounds a lot of money. But if you take yourselves as being the patriarchy of the Clutha district, the guardians, I put a proposition to you now for that level of support over the next 10 years. We will put back into this district a guaranteed $250,000 over the next 5 years, and that's money that this foundation has been successful in getting from the Otago Community Trust as part of securing money. So we've already distributed to $100,000 of that to a number of organisations. So in essence, I'm just asking you to carry on with that level of support. You are not the only organisation or group that we're asking for money. We have individual donors who are founding 40 members, who are individuals who contribute $1,000 a year personally just for the operational costs of this organisation. We're aiming to get obviously 40 members. At the moment we have 13 who are contributing annually $15,000. So we're very pleased about that, and we intend to build on that. And the Tyndall Foundation has also supported us with money, which we use for operating expenditure, and that's based on milestones that we have to meet in terms of what we do. So we have invested with Craig's investment on a very conservative investment in one of their pie funds, the sum of $167,000, which returned a conservative 3.35% in the last year. We have to be very careful because this is really someone else's money that they've given us, and we put it into a somewhat conservative fund. We can't, until we get $250,000, we can't have our own fund. And half of that money is invested in fixed term deposits, and if anybody's got any spare money, the fixed term deposits, you're virtually asking them to look after it for nothing. So that's really what, in the essence, what I'm asking for, $10,000 over the next 10 years. Failing that, I'm definitely putting the hard word on you for $30,000 or $10,000 over the next 3 years, and I'm quite willing to take any questions.
Thank you for that, Hamish. Questions, councillors. Councillor Cowie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and welcome along, Hamish.
Thank you, sir.
Can I just say, like, I see there's a total of $26,000 odd grants made. Would the trustees consider not making any grants or reducing the number of grants until you built your investable, your portfolio up to a certain figure? You mentioned a figure there for over $250,000.
Yeah,
that a
so
possibility?
essentially the money at the moment we're trying to build a fund. So the grants that we're making are from this essentially this pass-through money from the Otago Community Trust. And that was just what we really wanted was them to give us $500,000 that we could invest. So our criteria is when we make grants, if you start an endowment, a named endowment, for example, Stu Cowie endowment for paddock golf at Waira, you could make that endowment to support that in the future, but we would not make a distribution from that fund until it hit $50,000. Now, a named endowment requires you to put $5,000 in to start it, and at the time of your death, may that be a long time off, Stu, then that would be settled, and from that point on we would make distributions. Obviously our criteria is A, to inflation proof that amount of money, so we take care of the annual inflation component. We take 1% for our costs, and that's really what we're trying to bridge at the moment. We're trying to get to the point where we've got enough money so 1% actually covers our costs, but as you'll see from our submission, it took the Acorn Foundation 17 years to reach that position. We think this is a great thing to support for our district, and so in essence the answer to your question is no, we don't make distributions unless it's from the general fund.
Okay,
we can make some adjustments.
that's fine, Hamish. I wish you well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Further questions, councillors? Councillor Valkway.
Bruce?
Thanks, Mr. Anderson, for coming along. Pardon me, trying not to do those. But with the pass-through funding, do you take any of that for administration?
We do, yeah. I'm not exactly sure of the amount that we take for administration, but we are taking a percentage. The community trust has allowed us. The other thing about that, you've probably been aware, John, that West Otago is not covered by the Otago Community Trust, but we've turned a blind eye and we can use that money to cover the whole of the Cleveland District. They don't really care, as long as it's to benefit the people of the Cleveland District, whether they're in South Otago or West Otago. So yes, we're taking a wee bit of that. We're trying to, we're being straight up and honest and playing by the rules exactly as the Community Trust is specifying.
Further questions? Councillor
Thank you,
McCormick.
Your Worship. For Hamish, I'd just like to say congratulations for coming. The initiative of the Truth Foundation, I think, something that we've got to give this thing time to grow and support, because it's something that's going to provide a legacy for the district for eternity. So thank you. I'd just like to say thank you for coming along and requesting your continued support, and may it flourish and bloom.
Thank you for that. Sentiments shared. Any further questions, team? If not, if so, Councillor Valkway.
You mentioned the Otago Community Trust doesn't cover the West Otago area. Is there an organisation
We approached the Southland Community Trust, but they were not forthcoming with funds. So I think that's where it begins and ends. So, but I mean, the pass-through funding will be gone in 5 years, and we'll be relying on endowments. Whether people give with a warm hand, give in their lifetime, or give after they die. I mean, I can't speak for the other people, but I personally have committed $100,000 on my death, or if I get really rich between now and dying, or come some money. It might be sooner, but I figure that the district has been really good for me and my family, and I'm quite prepared to, when I die, many years away, so I keep coming to things like this. I would like to contribute back to the community, and those of the relatives and potential beneficiaries will be well taken care of, and I'm quite prepared to give something in the future. So, we're not really asking for a handout, we're asking for a hand up, and this is really essentially an investment in the future of the district. So, thank you for your time. If there's no other questions.
No more questions this time, councillors? Brilliant. Thank you for that, Hamish, and all the very best. Thank you. Councillors, we're breaking from the poll positions because Mrs Napier's got to get back to Tahakopa. But it's in the smaller book, book 3, page 68 of the smaller book 3. So welcome, Rachel. Thank you for coming up, and as always, the enthusiasm in following all processes, Council. Lovely to have you here, and the floor is yours.
Afternoon. Thank you for hearing my submission. It's written personally based, but most of the subjects that I've covered affect not only myself but my neighbours down in Tahakopa. Basically, I've outlined our battle to hopefully stay as a community. As you're all aware of, we're under huge pressure from the incoming water and natural significant area laws that are currently being enforced, going to make it incredibly difficult for us to meet all those and be profitable. As most of you will be aware, the top end of the Tahakopa Valley is already planted in trees. That had a big negative effect on the school, and most of it being foreign owned, which means there's not the yearly expenditure that local farms bring into businesses in the Kuka area. So we don't want to see any more farms lost to trees. Sadly, I hear one just over the boundary in Southland. The majority of that is now going into forestry. So I ask that in your long-term plan that you can battle to fight for us farmers. Also outlined in my submission was just the health and safety aspects and how that's deteriorating. Personally, my family experienced having a squatter living next to us for 20 months. We contacted several agencies, and it took 20 months before the police removed him. In that time, my children didn't feel safe to take themselves to school. And also, we had a fellow, another local who's a retiree, who got to the point that he didn't even feel safe to sleep in his own house because he was that intimidated by these people. So that I asked that, as a council, that we focus on helping these people in need because they're actually having negative effects on everybody in the community when they're not getting the help. I don't believe that central government has that expectation on everybody to be an asset to the community they live within anymore. I know COVID's thrown a lot of things up in the air, but I don't believe there was too many people not contributing to New Zealand in our last issues of significance like the world wars. I ask that the community, the council do as much as they can for the community and put these people in need into houses so that they're actually not out there causing issues amongst, as a community as we try and get on with our work. Because it was quite scary having these people living 3 minutes walk from us because no one's going to hear us scream when they're at our door. And we're trying to get up in the morning and do a full day's work when you wake at night wondering what's going on outside your door. So these are issues that my little district of Tahakopa has faced recently. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, councillors? Councillor Herbert.
Thanks for coming along. Can you just elaborate, please, on under your water and environment heading, near the end you say the Kuka District Council needs to keep control of our waterways.
Well, there is talk that central government's actually going to take, they already are, we're already having so many laws from central government that don't actually allow for any local
Sorry, are you talking
aspects.
about creeks and rivers, or are you talking about, because we don't manage, that's Targa Regional Council.
Okay, but I'm just meaning that unless we actually keep control, I mean, nationals put all these rules on us from a national level.
Yeah, we don't control them now, that's, I mean, just a statement like there that Police District Council needs to keep control.
Oh, okay.
We have nothing to do with watercourse at
Oh,
present.
okay, no, but I'm just, and yeah, I apologies for that, it's just in general of actually keeping control of our resources.
Further questions, councillors? Councillor
Sure, thank you.
McCall.
Rachel, thanks very much for coming. It takes quite an effort for you to come and talk to us, and I think we can all take the points, some of the points that you've made, and take it forward. So I just want to thank you for making it come.
Thank you.
Any further questions, councillor Cowell?
Thank you. Thank you for coming along here. Just as a wee follow on about the housing, community housing. So what happened to your lovely squatter? Where did they go to? Because sometimes people choose to live in a bit of seclusion.
I believe they're still down in the Cargill. They finally got moved on, and the welfare agency and the police moved them on, and I believe they're down there. They have been breaking back in. It's not our shed, it's a neighbour's, but
Oh, I see.
they're still breaking back in, but at least they're not there for long.
Thank you.
Councillor Boldwell.
Just with regard to that personal, the housing tax around Waihoe, is that seems I presume they were rented?
No,
Yeah, so they,
no, it's just a farm shed that they actually broke into.
oh,
Yeah, no, it hasn't, it has no power, and they installed the fire without the owner's permission. Yeah, it was a very unusual and quite a creepy situation, but I believe, talking to other people rurally, that it's not a singular issue. And I mean, basically my submission is, I feel that in New Zealand we've actually lost so much of our quality in life and freedom that we once, enjoyed. I mean, I never heard of this thing growing up. I mean, I've lived rurally all my life, 12 years down in Tahakoko, and my family's originally from Waikuikuri, where they were for 120 years. And, I just feel that as a country we're losing the standard of living that we once all enjoyed.
it took that long because
Yeah, well, of course.
living illegally.
Yeah, unfortunately COVID made it a bit tricky because he was ill with his elderly mother, so they didn't want to, force them out until they found somewhere for them to go that they were happy to go to.
Certainly it was extraordinary circumstances, and I know when approached it, to me it seemed it was a police matter or a social welfare matter, but I appreciate why anyone in the near vicinity would have concerns, that's for sure. Thank you, as always, for coming and your enthusiasm and your contribution that you have, and thank you very much, and let's hope that on that particular issue there's not a reoccurrence.
Okay, thanks very much.
All the best, thank you. Our next speaker is Joe McCleary, so we're back to the number one book, page 217. Welcome, Joe. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And first of all, thank you for taking the time today to let me come and talk to you, but also the time and effort that you guys put into making the Kuku District the wonderful place that it is. I'm Joanne McCleary. I'm here as a ratepayer today. Just wanted to bring up, you've obviously read my submissions. The first thing is I want you to think about when was the last time that you guys actually watched the stars, went outside and kind of looked at the good-looking stars. Have you seen the Southern Cross, which is actually on it, besides being on our flag? Have you actually seen the real Southern Cross? Have you seen the Milky Way? We're part of an amazing galaxy. There's actually 2 other galaxies out there that we can see with our naked eyes. Have you seen an aurora? A lot of people probably have, but don't actually even realise it. So I just wanted to highlight that we have a really important and a really, really beautiful natural resource here in the Kuku District, well, in all of New Zealand, but we do have it here in the Kuku District as well. And my submission really is just to encourage to get the word out there that I think it's something that It's so beautiful, we need to keep it this way. So what I want to do is to encourage you guys, when you're making decisions on things that have any kind of impact on the night sky, so when we have artificial light at night, or light pollution, that if anything's going to be affected, that due consideration is given to the effect on the night sky as well. In the long-term plan, it was on page 3, it was noted about reducing our environmental footprint and enhancing habitats of local significance. So I just wanted to point out that the night sky is something of huge significance. Okay? So get out in your backyards and have a wee look. It's awesome out there. Again, I mean, I don't know what the best way to do that is. I'll admit that. But somewhere along the lines, if you guys have it in the back of your mind when you're considering things that people want to do and stuff, that you just have that in the back of your mind. Now, flowing on from that, I also talked about the Valkyr Bridge, lighting that up. Don't get me wrong, I do love lights. You'll find me out at midnight going around to all the lights in the district and to have a wee look at the Christmas lights and things. I absolutely adore them. But there needs to be a balance. And my feeling right now that with lighting the Valkyr Bridge and putting that money into that project at this point in time is probably not a priority. We've got lots of other things going on, especially with the way the world is going, the economy is going. As a ratepayer, I think I'd probably much rather have that money put into other things that are health and welfare, or things like the Clutha Foundation and things like that. So it's just a matter of maybe perhaps in the future sometime that could be something that can be re-looked at, but at the moment I think it might be something that's better put up and readdressed for that. So yes, thank you again for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Joe. Questions, please, councillors. I do have one. So one that I highlight and one that possibly could be for consideration. I know when we're out at Clifton in the night sky and that real blackness that you couldn't see, and then when I returned after the Mount Stewart wind farm was in, and intermittently there was the red, and that was like 20 kilometres away. It's a long way away. You can see it from the passing lanes at Milton, you can see it almost Clinton. There wouldn't have to be too many of those stationed around our district, and our night sky is gone. When I looked into it, you can actually have a radar so that the light only goes on when there's a plane above. But the cheaper option was to just have the light flicking all the time and degrading our night skies. So there is issues that we should be looking at, and I support you. Thank you for that, Joe.
Yeah, there's balances with it as well. You've got your health and safety and things as well. I did all that, but yeah, having a look at it, that'd be great. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the day, guys.
Thank you for your enthusiasm. And just so submitters know, you don't have to sit. It's only us that has to sit here. If you've done your presentation, you can go home.
Cool. I'm out here.
Cheers for that. Next one up is Jared and Linda from the Clutha Parks Trust. And can I say, on one of my nightly waddles the other day, I saw the dog park. Well, stunning. I was actually, shall I say, ambivalent to dog parks, but not once I see it. Well done, team.
Hello, and thanks for the opportunity today. I've got Linda here, who's my left-hand person at the moment. First of all, we wish to thank the Mayor, councillors and staff for their help and guidance through our journey to redevelop Nation Centennial Park, and the trust that the great relationship that we have will continue. I'd just like to say that in what we have done, we have raised just on $500,000 ourselves towards this project, and that's been a contribution from the Charitable Trust, the Community Trust, the Clutha Foundation, Clutha Vets, Rotary Roundtable, and sponsorship, and a lot of voluntary hours. Our team has worked extremely hard over the past year, and we are currently awaiting the results of many funding applications to enable us to commence construction of the junior and senior playground. The Clutha Parks Trust would like the council to consider the following requests for funding towards our project. Construction of the car park beside the dog park at the top end of the swimming pool, and the construction of a new car park between Nation and Centennial Park. The council installs a suitable watering system to help maintain the new plantings in Nash Park. And the council pays for the upgrade and ongoing maintenance of the duck pond all in our vision and direction towards and future planning towards a garden of significance. Council staff need to consider the increased service level maintenance for a destination park, for example rubbish bin duties, etc. Clutha Parks Trust would also like to bring to the council's consideration the need for a person to oversee landscaping, plantings and maintenance of all parks and reserves in the Clutha district. Following the airplace consultations across the district, many projects have been identified, and it is important that the council ensures that ongoing maintenance and upgrade of parks and playgrounds equipment across the whole district is undertaken. The draft Living and Working in Clutha strategy has a vision that the Clutha district is a great place to live, work and play. The Living and Working strategy says that the council provides community spaces and facilities throughout the district to provide the health and well-being of our communities. Clutha Parks Trust considers that funding made available for a council employee with knowledge of gardening to liaise with our parks and reserves maintenance contractors in a great way to ensure that our parks and reserves are maintained to a high standard across the whole district to help make the Clutha district a great place to live, work and play. Thanks to the opportunities to submit to the council's long-term plan.
Thank you, team. Questions, councillors? Councillor Finch.
Thank you. Welcome and thank you, Jared. What type of upgrade are you looking at for the duck pond, please? You're probably well aware that it's full of sludge. It's pretty horrible. So we've looked at several options. The big thing is to get oxygen into the pond. So our current thought is to put a bore down and pump water into the pond, and ideally put a fountain in there and get the water circulating that way. The other thing that we're looking at is these tablets that you can put in the water and it clears the sludge away. It sounds, we did have a costing and you can get it for you, I can't remember off the top of my head. It's initially quite expensive, but then it's just a regular maintenance after that, throwing the water basically. We have understood it's very expensive for the council to keep water up to the pond at the moment, and so we were looking at a one-off type cost with putting the bore in and getting the fountain going, and then we're underway with not for that ongoing cost. So what would you say, like a digger digging out the pond or what? No. My understanding is, and someone else might be making this clear, but putting a bore down somewhere in the park, accessing the water and just dragging a pipe through into it. So but how are you going to clean out the pond first was the question. These pills, so tablets through and yeah.
Councillor Thompson.
Hi Jared, Linda. Just a question around the watering system. Is there a current watering taps water available, and if not, would you look at, if the board goes ahead, would you look at tapping into that board to use for your watering of your plants?
So we had wondered about that, but I'm not familiar exactly where the board is going. Gold is looking at where that might go, so we may be able to extend off that. At the moment, we carry buckets out of that pond over to the plants to try to keep them alive. There is a water, some sort of hose or something down at the front gate, but we haven't been able to get into it. It sounds like it's, I understand that initially people used to steal the fittings, so they've blocked that off. So we've got very little in the way of access to water. We just use buckets.
Is there not water at the aviary? Do they not have pipe water there
I
somewhere?
think there's a tap over there, I think.
Yeah, there is a
Or
tap
at the
there.
toilet, somewhere around there.
There is plenty of water there because the water going into the pond continuously is from the council water mains, and obviously water's become very expensive about Clutha, so it's probably costing quite a considerable amount of money to keep the water going in to the pond, so there needs to be an alternative solution found.
So just to be clear, that we're hoping to put a new new plantings down the boundary between the bowling club and Nash Park. You'll be aware that they took the hedge out. And we need watering system in there. We can't keep carting water. And the other area is over by the riverbank where there is some rhododendrons, just at the entrance up to the riverbank. We want to plant that out for further rhododendrons, lilies and so on. We're bucketing water over there at the moment.
Any further questions? Oh, Councillor Cowie.
I'll make yours an easy question, Jared. Have you considered filling the duck pond in? Anyway, I'll just leave it at that.
Do you want me to respond?
Well, I've asked a question. But you can think about what I'll ask Linda. I know you've made a number of plantings in Nash Park, and I don't know Open Centennial Park, what's been many done there, but can you just sort of give us an idea of what's been planted and how many things you have planted, please?
Sure. Okay, so you will all be, presumably they've been to Nash Park. We've put in a new rose garden with a pergola, and we're going to extend on that this year with further roses. So that's another area that once again we're bucketing water to. Around the rotunda, we have built that up with soil because we can't build on it, so we're trying to make a natural rotunda with hedging. So we have planted viburnums around it, and hopefully in time they'll form a natural little hedge, or they will form a hedge. At the front gate we've planted rhododendrons and maples, just small bunch there. We've lost a couple of them through dryness, but we're taken away there. We've taken some plantings, what we could, from the town hall, some of the roadies there, and replanted those over by the riverbank. Once again, we'll try to get water up to them. Whether we succeed or not, I'm not sure. That's off the top of my head. We've got more planting to come. But that's what we've been able to fund so far. And a few trees too.
Keep it up.
As far as the duck pond goes, actually that was a direction from the council. But you put out queries last time we did consultation, and it came back that we've got to keep it, so we're stuck with it.
I was more sort of getting an opinion from Mr. McVeigh actually, but you're correct in what you said. I voted against it at the time though.
I can feel Margaret Collins looking over my shoulder. Any further questions? If not, I think it's a neat project you've got your teeth into down there, so pass on to the whole team, won't you, our appreciation from the district, because it's a real asset coming along there, and thank you for coming and presenting. You can sit down now, Jared, and we'll just get Linda to side on over. So Linda's doing her own independent submission on page 219. Thanks. Welcome again, Linda.
So my submission is regarding the playground equipment that's been removed from the park and Lisbon Terrace. Those of you that don't know where Lisbon Terrace is, it's up on the hill over there across the river. The playground only had a slide and a couple of swings, but it was an essential play area and meeting place for our neighbourhood children, grandchildren and families. With the equipment removed, there's now no safe place in the neighbourhood for them to play. While the maintenance of the equipment that's been moved has been neglected over the years, the children nevertheless enjoy playing there and having a place to meet with their friends within a safe walking distance from their home. The only options now are for them to either play on the street or walk the 20 to 25 minutes to the bridge park. That walk will entail following the river and crossing the bridge, which is an unsafe option for small children. On a personal note, I used to be able to wander out to the park with my grandchildren, they're aged 2, 4 and 7, and they could have a 20-minute play. With the removal of the park, I've got no option to put them in the car and bring them to another park, because it's too far for them to walk. That's the age group I'm thinking of with this playground. So 20-minute plays become an hour and a half mission. And for some families in our neighbourhood, it just doesn't happen. So my understanding is that the council may be considering selling this section. It's only a piddly little thing, so you're not going to build a big house and have a big family there. I'm requesting that you instead retain it and reinstate the playground. There will be minimal cost to paint and upgrade the equipment that's been removed and then reinstall it, or alternatively replace it with new swings and slide and a big seating. The benefits to the neighbourhood of a small playground being available for years to come and with an easy and safe access to the children's homes far outweighs the one-off sale of a council asset. reinstating the playground and fit within the council discretion, which I understand to provide a variety of passive and active recreational spaces that fulfil the wide range of needs of the Vancouver community to experience and enjoy the outdoors. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Questions, team? Councillor
I've
Herbert.
got a question for staff. Can you just remind me how many playgrounds there are in Valkyr, please?
14.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Thank you.
I'd like to respond that there's no other ones over our way.
Ca-
Clarify, there is
Yep.
one on Yarmouth Street in North Belfast.
Yeah, not over on the hill over here.
It's in
That's,
North Belfast.
Councillor Volwella, followed by Councillor Ludeman. Done. Councillor Ludeman.
Thank you for coming to submit. And only last week I had 4 grandchildren say, we're going to hop up to the playground. And I had to say, sorry, but the playground's no longer. So I believe it is used on that side because the children over there, they actually don't have a playground. Other than the bridge or up at, I guess Yarmouth Street, but they've got to cross the main road. So, yeah, thank you for submitting because, yep, as I say, 4 children last week said we're away to the playground. I said, sorry, I not be.
Councillor Foster.
Thank you. I presume the equipment was removed for a health and safety point of view?
well, I've got to say the slide was rather large, but rather high. The kids loved it, and I haven't heard anyone getting hurt, so possibly that you could say it was health and safety. The swings needed a dash of paint, and needed a couple of new ones, there was a couple falling off. But we restored baby seat and one for the kids, so there was enough there, but it certainly needed upgrading. But like a trade to a new seat, we extended the swings for it.
And how many families would you say, just on a rough brush would be using it on a weekly basis?
I honestly couldn't say because I don't know the history above, so I don't see if I hear them, I can hear them down there, and I can hear them on the street now, because it's a cul-de-sac, so they're out here playing on the street. Yeah, I think so. But it's quite a neighbourhood over there.
Any further questions, councillors? Councillor Sutherland.
Is it closed? You're not allowed to go in now? Or
Well, it's just an empty.
Doesn't matter.
It's like it's small. Probably a third of the size of that. I guess 300 square metres or something, and it's just a gravel stone pit at the moment. And the maintenance was running a lawnmower up a strip of grass, and that was all the maintenance that was required. Well, the swings needed painted, but thank you.
No more questions, councillors? Just for new councillors or ones that weren't here during the process, I don't know, about 5 or 6 years ago, we looked at a rationalisation program to try and get it even across the district, the number of playgrounds. 14 playgrounds in one town was, there's quite a lot of work to be done. But I think you can take heart, Linda, that every time we've tried to shut a playground, there's been Pilates, there's been... there was quite a few different things happening at every playground, and we've never had the gumption to follow through with our original intentions. So. Yeah, if you had to pull the old Pilates trick out on us, that would have got us. But hey, look, Linda, firstly, thank you for the efforts you're personally making and contribution, and take heed and point there, and we appreciate your input. Thank you. Next one up, please, is the team from Waihoe looking forward, which is Barbara Earl and Janice Farrell. And that's page 327. Welcome, floor's yours.
Thank you very much indeed. Thanks very much, everybody. Good afternoon, Miranda and councillors and everybody else present. I'm Barbara Earl, and this is my colleague Janice Farrell. We're from Waihoe, and reasonably new this summer to Waihoe looking forward, our community volunteer group up at Waihoe. So we'd like to, first up, can we just congratulate the CBC on a well-constructed and easily understood long-term plan consultation document and feedback process, very user-friendly. Thank you. And thanks for the opportunity to speak to our submission on behalf of our community. Janice and I are active members of the Waihoe Looking Forward Incorporated
group, which is a small volunteer community group who have embarked on a complete redevelopment of the lakefront playground facilities at Waihoe in partnership with the council. Our project has evolved to a point where we are moving forward with funding applications to suitable trusts and charities, and there's many 21 pages of them actually. So there's a lot of places offering support, not all of them. Our project doesn't meet the criteria for all of them, but for a number of them we do. Also what we're doing is exploring corporate sponsorship potential with district-wide businesses. So that's what's happening. Those two things currently are happening. Our $400,000 project budget is a modest playground budget in today's terms for a complete redevelopment. Waihoe looking forward strongly believes that the council's long-term plan proposal to tag a small ratepayer contribution across the district to the project is both fair and reasonable and without creating hardship for anyone. In the long-term plan it is stated that the ratepayer amount to enable a $200,000 council contribution would be $2.10 for the Bruce Community Rating Area and 52 cents for the remaining areas in the 2021-22 rating year. Anecdotal resident evidence exists for us, both in the resident survey in September last year, as well as from conversational feedback to support a long overdue upgraded playground facility on the lakefront for our residents and their families. The residents are very old, the facilities are very old. Some have significant health and safety issues and are clearly not inclusive of those with restricted abilities. Neither is it conducive for older citizens to enjoy or be inclined to engage with the young ones. Our two concept plans and quotations which you have available there to you are based on all-inclusive designs and equipment components which will be enhanced with seating, fragrant plantings and a children's sunflower walk as well as selected native plantings. The 1,200 square meterage playground area has existing toilet facilities through the perimeter fence. This safety fence was constructed in recent times by the Waihoe residents. Waihoe looking forward and local residents will complement the project completion by assisting to beautify the immediate area so we gain the best environment and the best lake view for everyone. Thank you for considering that Waihoe community is well due for worthy consideration of a $200,000 CDC contribution. This would enable a project completion date that coincides with that of the Kluka Gold Trail opening. The end destination point for this being alongside the playground. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions, councillors? Councillor Herbert.
Thanks for coming along. Can I just get it, just for my own benefit, the way you've ranked things, can I just help me understand, you put a playground at number 6 and the West Targo Health Medical Centre at number 3, you've ranked the playground as twice as important as a medical centre. Can you help me understand how you rank those?
Yeah. I didn't do a comparative on using those criteria, but I understand that the health facility at West Otago is that the one you're talking about?
Yes.
Yes, so comparing the needs. I didn't do a comparative thing. I know that they have a fabulous facility there. Before they didn't have a facility. Well, I think in Waihoe it's fair to say that we feel like we have a non-existent playground facility with its current way that it sits. I've basically taken, those figures have come from the council's entry in the long-term plan.
No, so you ranked them as, in your thing, you're ranked them as being important, like less important or more important, and you've put a playground at number 6. and the medical centre number 3. So you're saying to us as people receiving consultation stuff that that's up here in the medical centre. So I'm just wondering, it's not right or wrong, it's just to help
I'm following you now, I am following you. I've got to say, this is on behalf of a group of 15 volunteer people in the Waihoe Looking Forward group. So what we did was we strongly wanted to submit around the playground facility, and we didn't actually take the time to consider all of the other aspects of the long-term plan. And the online forum didn't enable me just to focus on the playground submission. We had to put something in all the other boxes. You couldn't just speak to one in the submission. And that's the only reason. You probably noticed if you go right down our list, it's probably we went centre of the road on our input to all of those because we couldn't just put input on one. So it was the software. No, not because we don't rate them any less, but not at all.
Further questions, team? If not, this has been an issue. The playground at Waihoe has been an issue for a long time now. And can I, at Christmas time in a cutting plan, instead of going to Wanaka where everyone would know me because they'd be from here, I went to Waihoe where no one knew me, and I had a ball of a time, and it was ship-shape and Bristol fashion, the whole town. And it's a credit, to the group. Waihoe Looking Forward is that preeminent group in the town, and you've done such a marvellous job. So thank you, and thank you for your submission.
Thank you.
All the best. Right, next one up, Rotary Club of Milton on page 291. As everyone will know, my strong feeling is if you want a sensible submission, get a share of it, go. But welcome, Jim.
Thanks for being given the opportunity to come along. I feel we're just part of the Waihoe Looking Forward committee that the Rotary Club of Milton from time to time does rather major projects. It started off by building at Berwick, which was totally done by Rotary. We done the Manuka Tunnel, and we helped with Moore Park. We done the McNally track, and the time's come again that we needed a major project. And on behalf of one of our really esteemed members who passed away, we wish to leave a legacy. So we were discussing how we could develop a community project to provide a lasting memorial for Peter Boldwell, Peter was an inspiration behind a group of Milton Rotarians and their family who walked the Milford track in 1986. This trip led to the development of the Otago Youth Adventure Trust, Milton Rotary Travelling Club. Peter was the driving force and the administrator of the club for many years as it grew to the point where it now takes 700 plus trampers, cyclists from all over New Zealand and Australia on trips and great walks, lodge-based trips, cycle trips across southern New Zealand. Over 35 years there has been 20,000 successfully completed trips. Funds raised from club members and donations total over $2 million, which goes to support the Otago Youth Adventure Trust at the Berwick Camp in Te Aotuku and the Milton Rotary projects, and ultimately our community. You can see it's a significant legacy thanks to the drive of Peter. That would have been like to remember in perpetuity with a suitable project. We have identified this opportunity to develop a walkway in Waihoe, utilising Crane Hill Road. It is currently used as a through road, not used as a through road, but provides a short walk of approximately 1.3 kilometres up a hill where it joins the Finlayson Road. Peter walked that road regularly right into his late 80s. Currently is still used by locals as a walkway, but is overgrown with gorse and trees and badly scoured out. Crane Road provides some stunning views of the surrounding area. would complement the new cycle trail, of which Milton Rotary has been the driving force. It's away from the main road and will be an asset to the community and visitors. The Milton Rotary Club is prepared to provide significant funding to develop this project. We have within our club all sorts of sources that we need to do it. We need council support to deal with the legal, road closure, neighbour, landowners issues. The council would take responsibility for the track once developed. We seek the council's commitment to jointly develop this wonderful opportunity. Peter Boldwell Memorial Walkway. I'd just like to say that due to COVID, we have significant funds available within the club. We don't envisage having to ask the council for funding. We're just looking for legal help and in the road closures and dealing with the landowners and providing support.
Questions, councillors? Firstly, Councillor Finch, followed by Payne.
Thank you. It's an excellent thing you do for all over the area and the walkers and bikers and everything. It's a really good community Rotary experience and a great idea to have another walking track, especially somewhere else around the area. Who would do engineering and whatnot of the track? Would you get that done professionally?
Professionally, yes.
And so you'd fund all that part of it as well?
Yes.
Wonderful. And so it would be, so that it could be used all year round?
It could be. We envisage it being used all year round. There wouldn't be too many youth of Milton that hadn't come down that track in the early years, but it's, we're wanting it to be able to be just used as a walkway.
How much roughly do you think it will cost to do it?
Roughly in the $100,000 area. It's at this stage is pretty rough, isn't it? But Colin Calto, who's in our club, has perused it along with the rest of us club members, and we see it as viable.
And so that was going to be my next question. So would you have your members doing a lot of work on it, i.e. Colin's diggers, etc.?
Yeah, quite possibly.
Yeah, so there'd be a lot of in-kind go into it.
Oh, yes.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Payne.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship, and welcome, Jim. Long time no see. Good to have you here. And look, there's the things you're asking for, I'm looking at, and we can deal with legal, we can deal with road closures, but often perhaps landowners can be a bit of a showstopper. And I was just wondering whether you could put some context around that, just so we can get a bit of a vision of what the issues are, perhaps, or if you can do so. With the neighbouring landowners, you've stated that there are some issues with neighbouring landowners and things with the track.
Well, we thought that the council could deal with that. We didn't want to get into that sort of...
You're too kind.
I'm past that sort of thing.
Yeah, and again, I understand there might be a bit of confidentiality around it, but we need to know what we're dealing with if you're asking for it, yeah.
Well, it is a paper road, and I don't see that we can't see. Our chairman is Stephen Woodhead, who's an ex-councillor, and he can't see any problems.
Right.
He just said that it needs to get the directions need to come from the right area.
Right, that's good, thanks.
Sorry, certainly. Gainer first, sorry, Stu.
So you haven't actually approached all the landowners?
No, we didn't. No, we brought it up at Rotary with me. Your esteemed Emir along talking to us, and he told us to get the submission in the right place.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's my answer. Thank you.
This time, Councillor Cowie. Sorry.
You're good. Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and welcome, Jim. Now, I think you just answered the first, but I was going to ask you, it's a paper road.
It is?
Yeah.
It's a paper road. Hey, that's all good. How high is it going to go? Because Waihoe pretty much must be...
It's 1.3. It joins Spinleston Road at the top.
But what height are you going to gain? Can you tell me that?
Height
That's got you thinking.
to the top, to where it comes out up the top at Finlayson Road? Is it?
No, the height above sea level. How elevated? I mean, can I walk up it with Grandma or?
Oh, well, Peter walked up it.
But he's an athlete. No, that's all right. No, good luck. It's a good project.
Can I check, Jim, did you walk up it?
I walked as far as was necessary.
Well, yeah, perfect. We know how to conserve energy, eh? Gainer again, please.
Yeah, sorry, the view you get from up there, Jim, can you describe what that view
Well,
is?
they can see right across all the plain, the lake, right up to the Mangatuas, and it's quite an. I guess most people here have been over the Torrey Beach Road. I shouldn't need to elaborate too much.
That'd be good.
Yep, that's
It's pretty good.
Thanks, Jim.
And we just think that it will add to the cycle trail.
Perfect. Any further questions, councillors? Jim, pass on to your team, won't you? Pass on to the club how we really appreciate all that. That's a magnificent effort over the years. Fantastic figures. And also the attitude that you're not coming here, you're putting in the dollars and the effort, so we appreciate that.
We intend going looking for funding elsewhere. We don't intend to.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Our pleasure. Righto, councillors. I think we're so privileged actually today. We've got one after the other of individuals or groups, the good people of our district coming and actually partnering up with us. And Mark, you are most certainly the next one to partner up. Really been interested in seeing the development take shape over in Lawrence. Councillors, Mark's submission is 323 in the big book. Welcome, Mark. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors, and thanks for the opportunity to come and talk through our submission today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Mark Hay and I'm the Chair of Certificate Health Incorporated Society. I think our submission is relatively straightforward as it's written there, so I won't take up too much of your time, but I will run through the main points. Obviously, our structure we start with, I'm pretty sure you're all aware of, it's very similar to the structure of the local Walkway hospital. The background for our project, we're planning on building up to six independent living units on some land next to adjacent to our existing health centre. And the reason for that is we did a survey some time ago of our residents, and it became clear that we did require some more age-appropriate housing in that area. As well as we were planning on it being an income-generating model to help us retain our relevance in the future for our health centre. Obviously, as you can see, all health spending is under a fair bit of pressure, and we've just got to make a bit of autonomy for ourselves in that regard, I guess. We do thank the council for their support already, enabling us to buy the land off them at an earlier time and advance the project, which we're up to now. And our recent developments, I've got it written down there. We've got started. The sites are build ready for the first 2 units. We're going to start with 2. Once they're sold, or at least 1, then we will move on from there and do another 2, and then 2 after that. So we've got, it's all build ready to go. We've got the stormwater and the sewage connections done, and the pipes and electricity pulled in, so we're ready to go. I would add to that though, we do have 1 confirmed resident ready to move in as soon as we're built, which we're very excited about, and others showing interest, but until we get actually something on the ground, they'd like to see that done. We have had support from community funders, as well as we ran our own stock drive, which was quite successful, and general donations. We also have a landscaping plan done, etc., so we are well underway. So we're asking for council support As you can see written down there under the heading council support, that those things that we've spent, subdivision consent, building consent and sewage and water connection fees, have come to a total of $23,557. And we're asking council to consider waiving or discounting these fees and charges. And we make this request based on the following points, which I'm not going to read out because I'm sure you've all read them. So a recommendation is, I guess, that we respectfully seek the committee's consideration of the following: that the council waives or discounts subdivision and building consent fees, sewage and water connection fees, and that the council funds their support for this project through investment services. On that basis, that this project supports our community's well-being through the priorities in our living and working include strategy, that is more quality housing, which we are providing. And I'll have to take questions.
Thank you, Mark. Question, councillors. Councillor Ludeman, followed by Finch.
Well, Mark, thanks for your submission, which is good. Just these fees to date, do any of, and I don't know whether you can answer this, are they all council fees or are some of those government fees that council has to on charge? So sometimes we have our own set fees, but sometimes there are government fees as part of what we're on charge. And I just wondered if you knew if that was all council fees or some government.
I don't know 100%, but I'm pretty sure these are just council fees.
Okay.
Not the government. For instance, the subdivision, there was other costs that we had on top of council costs for subdivision, through land information, etc.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Finch.
Thank you. So the area that we let you buy off us, is the room for more units apart from just 3 or just the 3?
4. We've got the plan, architectural plan for four units to go on that side.
And then is there room for any more after that?
There is another room for 2 other units on our existing property.
Right, okay. Thank you for that.
Councillor Cowie.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Welcome along, Mark. You're doing a good thing here. Hey, is this a one-off request?
Well, I have got written down here as well. I already acknowledge that you've given us some assistance already, and we really do appreciate that. I can't imagine that there are any other council costs that we will incur, to be honest, not to any huge extent. But I'm not going to stand and say that.
Always leave the door open.
Yeah. Okay. My words exactly.
So just to clarify, your building consent, is that for the 4 buildings?
No, it is not. That's for the first 2 units.
Yeah.
I mean, once we get up and running, this should be take care of itself.
For councillors, the new councillors, the genesis of this project was that this was a small community that was wanting to maintain autonomy and have the critical mass. And I think that they've come up with a solution that has full support of the community. We've seen that in the hall, and now to see it take shape, it's a credit to you and your team, Mark. So thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no more questions, councillors? There is one. Councillor Thompson.
Hi, Mark. Just a question. The units that you're looking to build, they remain wholly to the community group? They're not for individual sale?
They do remain the property of, they will remain the property of Tupika Health Incorporated, it's a community-owned incorporated society, and the residents will own what's called a right to occupy.
Right. Thank you.
Nothing further, team?
Just
John.
on that note, so I'm presuming, is that similar to the way a lot of retirement, where there'll be a diminishing depreciation for the tenant, and you will purchase back at a lesser price after 5 years or 10 years?
That's correct, yeah, we're basically working on that model, the same as
Absolutely.
the Conservatory Village in Oamaru.
Yep, understand, thank you.
Very similar to the model.
Well done, councillors. Thank you for that, Mark. All the best. Appreciate it. Next presenter, councillors, is Matthew Wind. Matthew's on the Big Book, page 361. Welcome, Matthew. The floor is yours.
Thank you for letting me have a seat.
Our privilege.
As you read, I live right next to the cemetery up there, and one of the things I did notice is when that photo was taken about 3 years ago, there was a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to clean up the mess there. Well, one of the points I've got is it actually still needs cleaning up, because I let them have access to go through my place to clean it. And there is a lot of people that come up and visit the gravesite who actually have families there. One of them came down from Papakura and travelled down. It's the second time down, and left the flower. Then I've met a couple, the grandmother, the daughter and the great-granddaughter go up and visit the grave, or they used to. It's not actually safe to walk through there. So, and I've got a Scottish heritage as well, so my cousin's searching graves over in Isford in Scotland at the moment. And I would have put a plan for the cemetery and Mount Stewart Reserve, and I seek council's support to develop a community plan for the cemetery and the reserve. And I have a friend who lives down the bottom at Block 11, and her name is Nikki Anderson, and her family started the Sterling factory. So, and she's keen to help, work with me to look after the, for the reserve, and to see what we can do with the cemetery right next to my place. I mean, I go down there in my spare time trying to clean it up, and I'm still cleaning up the section I let them use, because they ripped down the fence and made a hell of a mess, so I'm still just cleaning up my bit just to get there. But I go down and take the rubbish away and take it up. The offcuts I wouldn't burn it up, cut it up and burn it, but it's a bit of a, if anyone's been there, it's a complete mess at the moment. And since the PD have been moved away, they're not there cutting the grass anymore or anything. So the main thing is just an ongoing clean up to start with, and then get to sit down and develop a plan to move forward.
Thank you for that, Matthew. Questions, Councillor Finch?
Thank you. Are you aware there's already a person taking care of Mount Stewart, and he has workers in there to look after it?
No, I wasn't actually.
Yeah, so that is being done. So I assume you'd like to do the cemetery on a voluntary basis?
Well, it needs funding, because it needs need a plan put in place to get to clean it up. And since I've got a lot of spare time now, and I'm actually a qualified engineer. I've got more than one trade, and I know my way around. I've done health and safety work site, and a lot of my last job was going to all big companies and servicing some of the machinery. So I had to work site safe and all that. I've had to do. I've actually done occupational health and safety certificates. So
Are these just within the last couple of years?
no, I've got ongoing qualifications, and in the last years, with the last job, I had to stay up with health and safety constantly.
Yep. So it's up to right to the minute?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's the actual, when you get there, it's actually, I don't have the gear to get in there and clean it up.
So what would you require?
Well, a chance to sit down to start with and develop a plan. Because I've only just, pardon?
So you haven't thought out what equipment?
Well, I do know kind of what you need, a little tractor with a bucket on it, because the grave sites are actually falling over and the whole thing needs to be reset. And I'm more than capable of actually doing all that, because my ex-partner and I, we actually manage properties in Auckland, and we clean them up.
So you'll be aware we're not allowed to alter grave sites?
Yeah, but the stones need to be reset.
But we have to have permission from the
So yeah,
relatives.
so they've been knocked over, and if you can't find the relatives, you just leave them falling over.
Then we have to look
Because with that storm we had, the trees all come down and knocked them out of their footings, and they're just sitting there. It's a bit sad.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Your Worship. Welcome, Matthew. I might not have been listening too carefully, but I'm still confused over the access way and why they're going through your property. It's very kind.
Because it wasn't actually safe, because it's steep like that, and they took in the gear, the excavator and the gear, so I let them take the fence down and let them go through, because it was actually easy just to drive, get the gear to where they needed it and go through my place.
So I'm not familiar with the cemetery, and so it's down a steep gully then, is it?
Yeah,
there's no actual access.
So the access point is actually probably like that.
It's a steep incline.
And then there's stumps in there at the bottom, so it was safer to let them just open the gate up, take the fence down and go that way.
And so if I could clarify, the actual road reserve where there is legal access is very steep.
Right.
But there is alternative access through Mr Wynn's property that's much better. But previously there were issues with using that access and we had to use the steep route.
That's right. The previous owners didn't want the PD up there, and I was more than willing for them to come up and, clean it up and work there.
Right.
But since, since I've went at the PD of running from Gore, and then because I talked to the people that come up there, and I just warn them about being safe and that, because they still want to go and visit their grave and leave flowers and that at their ancestors. But some of the graves are actually knocked out of. We had a storm 3 years ago, all the trees come down and knocked a lot of the, just the simple stones just knocked them out of their mount. They're not smashed or anything, all they need to be is resettled and re-cemented in.
Further questions, councillors? Councillor Sutherland, followed by there's some hands moving there. Sorry, councillor. Oh, my apologies. Councillor Sutherland, followed by Herbert.
Roughly how many grades are there?
There's a whole lot of unmarked graves. I think there's about 70 or something, but actual graves themselves, there's in plots. So there's like 2 in a plot. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Probably 8 actual graves with the stones and everything there. There's one that's tucked way down the bottom that usually gets missed. But then where they pegged it all out, because I got it from Dudley Finch. There's a layout of the graves that are unmarked, but they've just got wire around it. But it's the actual headstones that are still there that actually need to be looked after.
So what did the PD workers actually do?
They just went there and mowed the lawns and kept it clean to start with, and then when we had that storm and all the trees came down, they got someone to come in and take the trees away, and the part of the deal was, for him to do it was, he got the wood, and I let them use my place to do it, but then what they did was left all the slash poles there. I was supposed to try and bring it up to my place so I could get at it, and it was away from the, out of the cemetery road. But now there's sort of like, you've got piles all around the place, and I just go down with a quad bike and a trailer and I slowly chip away at it.
Councillor Herbert, followed by Foster.
And thanks for coming along. It sounds like you're certainly doing everything you can to do your bit for that cemetery. Can I ask, you're asking for some funding here. What are you actually asking for in dollar terms? And is it an annual?
Well, that's when I spoke with Sharon, is it? Yeah, that I actually need to sit down to develop a community, develop a plan, because I know how much machinery costs. I've got my own chainsaws and that, but it needs a little tractor up there so you can actually get the stuff out and clean it up there permanently. I mean, I'm not talking brand new, even if you had one that you could loan them.
If we agree, we need to know what we're talking
But
about.
the whole plan is, because I only just decided this at the last moment, and I was talking to people and that, and then the people that came up, so I just put in a quick submission to be that, and then to have the chance to actually sit down and come up with a plan together, not just me just throwing dollars around. That's not what I'm about. And it's just with the support to look after it since I lived there. And the whole idea of moving there was because the rail trail was going to go through, and at the time you had all the micro carpets and all that, and it looked quite good. And you had a decent fence, and there was a decent track there, and it was actually manageable, except for the pine trees that started to split and get wrecked in the storm. But now the whole place is a mess. And I'd like to actually grow flowers and put plants up there, because when people come up, it's a nice view. And you see the windmills, you actually see the actual gorge from up at the site there. But it's off the beaten track.
Councillor Foster.
My question's been answered.
Okay. Any further questions, Councillor Boldwell?
Thanks, Your Worship. Are there any recent burials?
No, there's not. It dates back 18, I'll probably be wrong, but I think 1840, I think it's the earliest on the grave site, but I think the last one was 1930s, I think the last person that was buried there. Yeah. But like I said, the family members come and visit. And then there's people that just come up for a look. And then you get photographers coming up taking photos because they want to, they're interested in cemeteries and that. So, I don't try and, put them, say, well, it's a mess and this has happened and that's happened and what are you blaming on? It's just unfortunate is what it is.
Okay, team, is there any further questions? If not, Matthew, thank you for the passion you bring.
Yeah.
And, good on you. It's part of your backyard.
That's my backyard, yes.
Yep, got you.
And I kind of, I was actually, as a young kid, I was actually involved in, conservation. So we go off and plant trees and stuff. But I'm not like what you call a greenie, because I like hunting and fishing as well.
Yeah, fair enough. Hey, look, thank you very much for your submission and all the best.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, our next couple up are Eleanor and Don Sinclair. That's page 302 in the big book. Welcome, Eleanor and Don.
Thank you for allowing us to make our submission. The submission's come about by a soapbox meeting I had with the Mayor a couple of weeks ago on the Waihoe, and I brought up the subject in regard to this section of road, the Takeover Valley Road, which more or less the trees run from about 3 kilometres past Ari de Buck's place up to the boundary between Otago and Southland. My concern about, of course, when I went to see the Mayor was about the government promising 12.2 million to seal it, but of course I found that it was just a fairyland talk. But anyway, getting back to the subject, I took some photos which you've got a copy of there, and one in particular is a photograph of where the trees are and how wet it is, and it comes, you can see ahead where the trees have been cleared and how it's nice and dry. Well, that's really what the result and problems you have with these trees, especially when they're fairly close to the road. Those trees were planted back in the rhodonomics days, started about 36 years ago, and of course now they're just sort of cutting them down, and some of them have been there for some time. What I'm concerned about is the planting of the trees, the new gums. It's a bit like winding wild pine. It's sort of like blown in the wind, and as you can see in one photo there's some tall trees which I was told by a farmer belonged to the council, because when they surveyed the road and they weren't taken down by the crowd up there that's cultivating the trees. There's wild gum trees in amongst those trees which are actually blown from where their plantation is, and they just started growing there. And also the other photo shows where the road, and of course as I discussed with the Mayor, the trees have blown into the area of, which is supposed to be 10 metres on each side, I'm told, for the gap between them, and these trees are grown there too. So we're going back to the old days of the trees close to the road, which we know that history of the road just becoming a bulky of slush. And consequently, us, the ratepayers, have had to pay a lot of money on that road and fixing that outfit up, plus the bridge up there. And I feel like these guys up there, they're harvesting all these trees. We look back to the forefathers of Tarkoper. Tarkoper, like the Trevi King, okay, he did have a million super feet a year he took out, and the train, the branch line, railway branch line of Tarkoper, between it and Valkyr still holds the highest tonnage ever recorded for a branch line. So they took them out in railway, but we got them on the road. And I think, like, as far as that road is concerned, unless, like Peter Gordon promised the day he shut the line, that are you going to make it first-class roads? And first-class roads, to make a first-class road, dig a trench and fill it with rock, and you pack it and compound it, and you'd have to do that section by section. But of course, that was promises, like, it's a bit like the promise of the, well, not really the promise, but the mouth going and saying, we'll put 12.2 million into Steel and Tarkoper Valley Road. It doesn't happen. It didn't happen. And consequently, you're left with the road, which costs us a fortune, you know, and the gravel just goes down because you've got that area, that road up there. My late father-in-law, along with many other, Philip Martin, along with other farmers, it's written in the diaries because the Martins used to write daily diaries. And in the diaries, they used to go up there several days a week to help the council put that road up through there to do pastoral farming. And of course, pastoral farming, you and I all paid taxes for the Lands and Survey, who developed about 10 farms up there, first-class farms. And then one, out of the ballot of the guys who took over those farms, there was one in particular individual that hadn't much knowledge about pastoral farming. And consequently, but he did have knowledge about planting trees. And consequently, he planted trees on that, and if you talked to a few others, and consequently we're left with the result of a darkened road, and a road that they pay very little rates and pay no money, by rights they should have, council been able to go along to them and say, right, if you want to grow all these trees, I know Tarkoper is a great place to grow trees, but the fact is, right, you put the railway back again, you want them out. You know, you pay for it to get them out, not us. And if you want that privilege of making all that money, because they certainly put their money out for the trees. And if you go up there, all those gum trees, you see thousands and thousands, like matches, laying horizontal, so they have to dry them out to get the moisture out of them, because they don't want to, the price is so tight today, they have to wait to get the weight out of them, so they only carry the wood on the trucks. But of course, we're left with the road. And everywhere where the trees are, and if you come too close to the road, well, it just turns into bog. And that's what I tried to show on that photo. That those wild trees, they should be removed forthwith. You know, just get them out. They're not meant to be there.
Yep. I think point well taken. Yep. And questions, councillors. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you. I'll ask a question. Good afternoon, Don. And hey, I'm fortunate I've been given a map here by an earlier submitter. And I see exactly what you're talking about, because it's not tar sealed. What proportion of that road, I'm probably more interested on as you drive up the valley, the right-hand side, which will be shading the road, how much of that land is dock land, please?
How much is it off land?
Dock land, DOC.
Dock land. That means the native bush area is dock land. Not that much of it. No. That's further back to coming towards the northern side of the valley, northerly end of the valley. The heavy concentration of the gum trees follow the road. Okay, they all follow the road. Not only gum trees, it is pines as well.
Yep.
But it's not that much dock land. Dock land, you have to go. You would have to go about at least, I would say, about 18 kilometres to get into the dockland area, okay? From the gum, through the gums.
All right, hey, that's good. Thank you for that.
Councillors, questions? Can I, Don, just on, because soapbox time you caught me on the hop, trying to think where this money had come from. So in fairness, as you know, there was the Provincial Growth Fund and there was Shovel Ready and there was various funds that the government asked us to put proposals into. And we did very well out of the council. You know, we got the cycle trail, we got the community hub, slip road, and a number of other projects. So the money that you said was one of the projects that we presented to the government that was rejected. So it wasn't, didn't exist, or we tried our best. And in fairness to theirs, it went into the overall melting pot, and they came back no. So we gave it a shot. It was a process that we did very well out of, I think, but it was one step too far for them. So it wasn't like it didn't exist. I think the staff did their very best to promote the road, but unfortunately it missed. Any further questions before we wrap up? If not, thank you very much for your submission. Thank you, Don. Right, Kathleen. Thank you for your patience. It's amazing how time flies. So, councillors, page 13, we've got Kathleen's submission. Welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm not going to read the whole submission out. I'm sure you all had a good read of it. Some of you might have even chuckled. But the essence of it is that the shops, empty shops, I know they are a business, and I know that they are somebody's, it is a business, whether it's running the ITM shop or whatever. Running a property is a business. And I think, as a council, you could, by the way, thank you for letting me speak. Anyway,
It's our privilege.
I'll thank you again in a minute. Is to try and encourage or work with the property owners to try and get them, encourage them to get a tenant in their shop. Now they may be looking for a long-term lease. They don't want someone who's going to say, I'll sign a lease for 12 months because I'm just new to business and I want to see how it's going to operate and then sign a bigger lease. I know from experience that property owners and landlords want a long-term tenant. I actually looked at running a shop myself. Local land agent took me around several options and I thought, oh, this is good, yeah, this is good. Grubby, messy, dirty, and enticing. But hey, they were options. But when I actually sat down and did my homework, it's going to cost me $250 as a base each week that I would pay out in rent. Which, hey, for some big cities and that, it's actually more than what I would have been paying in Hamilton. Studio. But that's regardless. It's up to landlords to set their own business. But if their product isn't selling, then perhaps council, by introducing an empty premises levy, could encourage them somehow to fill those shops up. Valclutha, since I've only been here for 5 years, but in that 5 years I've seen shops down in Valclutha that have remained empty. They've been empty since we've been here. There's shops in Milton that are empty. Why? Sure, they can get a tenant in there, but it's a risk either way. And I just think that if councils could work together with the landlords, property owners to get or do something about the empty shops, at least clean them up. You look in the window, there's grubby old carpet and it's got fluff all over it, or you've got the remnants of somebody's former business with all the food pictures on the windows. It's like, it's really inviting. It's really making me think, gee, I could run my little business from here. It's unenticing. Posters on the windows, a good incentive, but in the main, it's trying to work somehow. And I had this epiphany, and I thought, why not charge the landlords? Why not not penalise them, but encourage them? Work it
as an encouragement, not to penalise them, but to try and say, well, hey, you're not going to fill your shop up for however many months. I use 3 months as the little window. They've got 3 months from the time that the person leaves the premises to finding another one. They get, after that 3-month window, they get a little bit of incentive from the council by saying, you guys are going to have to pay an empty premises levy of X% of the rent that you're already asking. Now, it might just make those property owners think, well, actually, maybe I'm asking a bit much. Or maybe I should, could make this work better. How could I work with the local community? How could I give back to Clutha? It's not a charity. I'm not saying a business is a charity. But I just think that even if this idea is a bit radical, it maybe get people starting to think, stakeholders starting to think about other ways in which we can make Clutha more vibrant. Because I think empty shops just look like dead things. Looking out as you drive down the street, it's like, why stop here? I've got an awful shop. We lived in Anderson's Bay in Dunedin back in 2000, and we drove through Clinton when we came back here only 5 years ago, and I was absolutely stunned. That little community had just gone sad. And I'm sorry for the people who do live there or have lived there, but you know what I mean. Clinton it's just faded, and it's so sad to see, and I would not like to see the same thing happen to Milton. There are empty shops there, or worse, to Valkyr. There you go.
Thank you. Question. Councillor Fudge.
Thank you. I'm in Milton Area Promotions, and about 9-10 years ago we wrote to all the empty shops and Milton's owners, and we had very, very little response. We asked if we could go in and wash their windows even, but they didn't want, and now for health and safety there's no way you'd be allowed to go into their buildings either. We wanted to be able to put up posters, clean their windows, just do things to make it look like it was okay, and for them to be able to rent it out. Our problem is one of our landlords lives in Dunedin, and he wasn't willing to do anything with the shops. Out the back there was boards that were broken and all sorts of things. So we're up against it with things like that. We've had the ideas. We got one response from one owner, and he asked us what colour we'd like it painted. We picked colour, and it was actually painted, and that building is occupied. That was really good, because that owner was willing to go ahead and actually do something, and now it's occupied. But we have issues with empty buildings, and we as council cannot go and push them or anything. We'd love to be able to, but we have no rights because they own the building. It would be like us coming to your house saying, we want you to do this to your house, and that's your right. It's really unfortunate, but we can't go about it any other way. Do you have ideas?
That's where the levy came in. Because if they were forewarned that this levy was going to come in, that they were well aware of all the bindings of it to say that this is being introduced by council, it's effective on that date, and this is how it's going to work.
But we wouldn't be able to legally do something.
No, but I'm just saying, even if it's not that, even if it's something else to entice them to ship their little shop around and put somebody in it.
Talking to the conversion here. Thank you for your passion.
Can I just check with staff, is there such a thing as a empty building levy or some other mechanism of paying? I've never heard of one. Sorry, Councillor Sutherland.
In Scotland, if your building's unoccupied after 3 months, any charity can have it rent-free.
Oh, that's an idea.
It does where I was staying. And this cancer society, all the shops. They had a lot of shops, and a lot of them must be.
Bingo, there's fun idea, excellent.
Any further questions, councillors? Kathleen, thank you for, for us as a council, it's so frustrating because I believe, Cloyter has been quite cruelly served with the number of empty shops portraying an image that's totally opposite to where our district's at. And it's been our hope through our living and working and attracting people. It's a numbers game. If the people come, the shops will end up filling. Unfortunately, what we're seeing is, while we've had some success with attracting people, retail has fallen in front of us. So I agree with you, and good on you for, let's have a lateral think. Let's at least consider it, because it's probably been 30 years, is it, Milton? How long's it been for those shops that have been empty? Ridiculous amount of time. So, yeah, volunteers can go in after 3 months for nothing. There's an idea. But look, thank you, Kathleen. Really appreciate your positivity.
Thank you, Councillor.
No, our privilege. Councillors, I know that brings an end to the list, but I also see, Trevor, you want to just be here, or would you like to do your presentation now? So, guys, if we go, Trevor's got his presentation, page 153 of the big book. Because 155, is it? I've got 153. So we're still on the big book. Trevor Hewson, 155. My apologies. Okay, team, welcome, Trevor, and floor's yours.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mayor. Apologies firstly for the typo. When I was working on in Murchison, 4:30 in the afternoon, in shorts and pair of t-shirt, I was a bit pushed for time. The significant changes ahead of us in regulatory service delivery and corporate, all the changes, the RMA, loss of 3 waters potentially, and hence the loss of income is the sort of thing we're heading down the barrel of, which I think this 10-year plan sort of highlights. Firstly, I've ticked the box for the Milton Main Street. Having spent a wee bit of time on the coast, Westport looks pretty good and vibrant with the Main Street undergrounded. I haven't been there for probably 25 years. An interesting thing, about 3 weeks ago, I come to the presentation here in the Cross Recreation Centre. Predominantly the folk that were here were pensioners or retired folk. I think out of about 25 or 30 of us, there was 3 who were probably employed. Getting on to your big items, $270 million capital spend in the next 10 years. In the last 10 years we've had a few capital projects that have always aroused my interest. Pernambuco Sewage Scheme, biofilter plants, and Valkyr Bridge. My concern about the big ticket items, big spend, often they go wrong. The anticipated spend in Milton and Waihoe, $1 in $7 of that $270 million is getting spent in that area. The water, I understand, is due to increased demand by new housing, obviously capacity constraints. One thing I suggested is, like a Whacker and Carpet Point, you could reduce the demand by putting in restrictors. It seems to work pretty good down south. Also, I've highlighted water losses in Milton. That would be the first thing I saw before I send too much water north. I understand there's been valves, meters fitted to try and figure out the leakages. I'm not too sure how much success we've had in that. The other concern, moving on to the 3 waters, the impending changes, which, if I read it correct, councils will be divested of their asset, probably recompensed, and all they'll be left with, as far as that asset goes, is the ability to charge a fee for the collection of the income for the new operators, which will be a positive. We'll get a bit of cash for the asset when someone goes and buys it off us, but the council will lose income if you tick the box to join this new mega service provider. The other thing I raise is rating reserves. Are they from projects that haven't been completed, or are they underspends? If it's underspent, as in they've come under cost, that's fine. Or should they have been spent somewhere and they haven't been basted? The reducing of the rural rate, particularly roading, is a little bugbear of mine. Most of the HPV traffic on the roads coming past my place is either farming or forestry. I've spent a wee bit of time through my employment involved in a logging operation. 2,500 tonne of wood come out, 150 loads, 12 to 14 loads per day, and the operators that were removing the trees, the loggers, brought in 2 utes. So there was about 150 loads of wood went out at 30 tonne each. They were all HPVs, and if people know where it worked, you'll understand where they're coming from. Down south, I've highlighted a few roads we have issues with. Don Rose and Tarkover Valley. I would agree those trees were planted 30 years ago. 30 years of collecting rates and not much done. He raises a valid point of shading. 20, 30, 40 metres on the north side of the road is probably not enough. You basically need to stand the tree up, and if the sun doesn't get to the road, you need to take the tree out. Walkway Valley Road, being a staunch local, we should probably tell seal that. Also down south, the Long Point Road. Councillors often do a drive round in a bus, which is an annual for mill. I've been out there in a ute, being driven by someone else. My thing was, put it at four-wheel drive. The response was, it isn't four-wheel drive. The challenge for councillors is to hop in your bus when they're grading it and pull the grader out. And then you'll see what they're grading. Absolutely nothing except for mud. Finally, my last point, amalgamation, which is, hey, 1989. If you get stripped of your 3 waters, there's not much left to provide. If the RMA changes, have you resource management taken off you, all you're left with is roads and civic. So basically, pools, swimming pools, and your roading base. So I would hope that regulatory service delivery, and corporate are fully aware of what's going on. Because going forward, yep, you might get paid you probably will get paid for your water assets, but what are you going to generate your income from? And, you know, I myself am local. My mother resides in Malcliffe and Care. My father lives in Penware. My siblings are spread from Christchurch to Dunedin. My 2 children live in Australia and Christchurch. We have an ageing population, and even in Waka recently, you know, land use changes, sales of farms, generally the neighbour buys them. So bringing more people into the rural populations through onto land-based enterprises has changed in the last probably 20 years. We used to have 4 or 5 people, now you might have 2. But yeah, that's probably it for me, Ben.
Thank you for that, Trevor. Questions, councillors? Councillor Herbert, followed by Finn.
Can I just have a clarification, please, Stuart? You've got a sentence there, you say, start charging those on rural for 1 unit of water like urban counterparts if available for domestic use, as treatment levels are just the same. What do you mean by that? Sorry.
Councillor Payne, he is, as an example, Councillor Payne's connected to I think the Balmoral scheme. He gets water out of the same pipeline for his stock and his house. So, Councillor Herbert in West Otago, are you hooked up to the water supply?
Yes, I am.
For your house?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I pay for it.
You know, my point there is, particularly like Councillor Payne, the charge for his residential and the charge for his rural connections are totally different. They won't be the same.
Not be the same.
One rate. I'm just confused by that statement.
So just to clarify, all of our rural water scheme customers pay the same water rates as the farms. They just pay a different number of units. So a lifestyle block pays a 2-unit minimum on all of our rural water schemes. The smallest connection pays for 2 units. And that's across all of our 11 rural water schemes across the district.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Finch, followed by Boldwell.
Thank you. Your bullet point, you question the amount in council budgets for elected representations remuneration. Are you aware we don't set that amount? We have nothing to do with it. It's done through central government and we cannot change it, have a say on it or anything like that. And how much do you think we are worth per hour?
I was just highlighting the fact that it is a major cost behind staffing.
And how much would you like to see us paid per hour for going through reading things like this that we have to do very frequently that you don't think we're worth it?
I am just questioning the amount.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Boldwell.
Yes, thanks, Kevin. Just long point road. How much use does that give us?
Operatives go out there for the penguins. Long Point's got a farm out, Long Point farm out there. It's been impassable for heavy trucks taking produce away to slaughter and that sort of thing.
Thank you.
Any further questions, councillors? If not, Trevor, thank you for coming along. As always, good to see you, and thank you for your continued support of the process. That brings that session to an end. Councillors, I think we've got how much, Larissa?
We'll reconvene at 4.
Reconvene at 4, so we've got half an hour for our afternoon tea. Have we? Oh, would you look at that? All those detractors that said I couldn't run a meeting on time. Eat that, would you? 2 in a row. We're going for 3 in a row. Yeah, and I did an extra one before. Come on, Larissa.
Holy smokes.
Holy smoke, there.
We've been doing this a while together, haven't we?
What do you mean we? Now that I'm doing it right, you can bugger off.
Now that I've got you trained.
Trained! It's exactly the same as last year. We're just nailing that time. Hold on, before the...